you guys. And I think there are some men, but listen, I'm always performing for men, so this is so much better. I said you don't have to say chutzpah if it's hard, so I think she was showing me that she can say it. It's not the easiest word. I was like, you know what, I want to do a Jewish stand-up show. Let's make it hard to find and pronounce. It's not political. Okay. It's just cultural. Just like me. I'm not going to be political. Just culturally Jewish, so clearly mentally ill. You know what I mean? And I think what's interesting is that I'm still relatively new to stand-up. I feel like we have to be immediately vulnerable. Because when comics get up here and they're like, I'm new, I'm like, you're just looking for them, to like you a little bit, be nicer. It's like, don't be nice. I just happen to be new, so I'm like, I don't talk about recovery. Because all the comics are like drinking and smoking all the time. And I'm in my 30s, and I'm like, wow, Botox is working, but not if I drank. So I don't talk about it because it would make them have to reflect upon themselves, I think, and that's hard, right? And I don't really talk about depression on stage either because I never felt like mine was bad enough, which is comparative suffering. My support group is my therapist. Don't do it. Well, no, I'm just lucky. I never had suicidal ideation, right? I just am sad. I'm so sad and I cry. But that's as bad as it gets. I'm like, well, that's not funny enough to talk about. Have you guys seen Big Mouth, the show Big Mouth? Yeah. Okay, so it's a really interesting animated cartoon all about hormones, and God, I wish I had seen it instead of sex ed. Teaches you a lot. And sex ed was my mother showing me a book at a young age, and I was like, oh no, why is there something called an erection? Okay. But in Big Mouth, there's a character called the Depression Kitty, and she's just like this sassy big cat. She talks like that, and she sits on your chest, and you don't want to get up. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what's been happening. That's why I sleep with a stuffed leopard. Sneaky is my Depression Kitty. Okay. I just gave him the name that came with him. It was T.Y. Sneaky for a leopard. Cool name, guys. So I'm Rebecca. I grew up very Jewish. That meant I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 9. A really young age to be put on Ritalin, okay? Yeah, and I didn't like it because obviously, right? And it's not fun when you're that young. When you're older, I take it now, but I took 15 years off. Okay? I don't have a personality. Turns out I'm cool. And in middle school I took it, and then in high school I didn't. And but I still have ADHD, right? That never goes away. And then you have all the symptoms that come from that, which can be anxiety, right? And depression. And what's fun is that I'm also have a lot of IBS. We're just talking about Judaism, the inbred of my people. So I can't drink. Not even a brag. It's I throw up, right? So I was so cool in college, you guys. So I never had an issue with alcohol, which I think I would have, right? Because everything. I asked my therapist one time. I'm like, how does my sister and my parents, teetotalers, you guys, the most sober people, they're like, how do they get through the day without substances? And she's like, well, what's as old as time is drinking, Rebecca? And she's like, you just don't do that. I was like, wow, are you recommending that I do that? She makes some questionable recommendations. I was going to a wedding one time of people I did not like. She's like, just have a drink before you get in. And I was like, we've talked about this. But I like weed, and my biggest vice though was tobacco. And my grandfather. My grandfather died at a very young age of lung cancer, right? And my whole life, my mother, who never smoked a day in her life because her grandparents did it, her parents did it, it's disgusting. Well, my parents didn't do it, so I wasn't as adverse to it, And my grandparents didn't do it, they were dead of the lung cancer. Yeah, bladder, lung, brain, name it. And my mom was always like, don't smoke. And I didn't mean to, right? I knew not to. When I got to college and I didn't smoke tobacco, I was a good girl. I just smoked a ton of weed because I could not drink, remember, there's so much weed. I pretended I was drunk a lot of different times, but I wasn't. I had to always, be conscious of my decisions, which sucked, okay? Don't complain about not drinking in a recovery show. All right. Tobacco is hard because it found me. Yeah, thank you. It is hard. It found me because here's the thing you can say is genetically I was predisposed, right? Also, God, it helps with anxiety. That sucks. It does. It was a vice, and I got into it because I spent some time in the Middle East. Oh God, let's not talk about where. And they don't, you have to cut hash or weed with tobacco. It's just not plentiful like here in Illinois or Michigan, okay? So I smoked tobacco just to smoke weed and hash. Gross, hash is gross, it's brown, it's gross. I needed it. I was in my 20s, I didn't know how to cope, and it followed me, because that is a really intense high. And it followed me back to the United States, and I was like, spliffs? And then all the European kids were like, yes, us too. Cool, I have cool friends. And that's really hard to quit. And then in the last few years, vapes came out. Where'd they come from? And then I was doing both. I was smoking tobacco and weed. Never quit the weed. And tobacco, but I take edibles now. But I was also vaping. Do you know how much nicotine is in the cartridge of the Juul? I also don't know, but like, it's an incredible amount, and the price kept going up. So not only was I like, I have vape lung, but I was like, I don't know how much I'm spending a month on this. This is doubly troublesome. And it got out of control. And then the pandemic happened. You guys remember that? That was great for addiction. You know, wonderful time. I was like in an abusive relationship, am I right? Okay. 0 out of 5 stars. And he sucked, and so maybe subconsciously I was doing this to also upset him, and I could smoke indoors, but because I think who cares, he sucks. His stepfather did die of lung cancer, so it's coming for us all. But I was chain smoking in front of him. It was a pandemic. And he was like, you're gonna give me secondhand cancer. And I'm like, I'd like to give you the first one. You're a bad guy. I know, it was, but I was smoking for me, and then I had a nicer relationship. And what's interesting is he was such a vapor. Not a word, but it's a term we're gonna use. He was a vapor. Nice boy, had quit cigarettes. And I had, right before meeting him, decided to stop smoking tobacco and just vape. Which was wild, because otherwise he wouldn't have dated me, right? Because dating smokers is gross if you're not a smoker. I dated a lot of smokers. They're cool, but kind of gross. And that's something I was like, oh no, I am that. That's hard when you have to face that. So I dated so many boys that vaped. And when someone vapes around you, you're like, let me vape more. Also, when it tastes like mango, let me vape more. And I think it was 2 relationships later, I'm doing great, that I was like, I really, also he sucked too. He was very controlling, and that's important. So I decided I can't do this on my own. I had tried to quit vaping. I'm gonna do hypnosis. I hear that works for some people. I have $500. Take my money, cure my addiction. And it does work for some. It did work. I got lucky. Oh, that's a spoiler. It did work for me. But caveats, I'm going to tell you about my experience. And I've never talked about it on stage, so it's interesting to talk about hypnosis. Has anyone been hypnotized? Yeah? Was it successful? Yes. Okay, cool. Great. We can talk after. All right, so I had a bad boyfriend at the time that was really wanted to see my location on Find My Friends. I know my parents see my location all the time, but not a boyfriend. My parents are like, why are you having casual sex? It's like, guys, just make sure I'm not dead. And I can't turn it off because they think I've been abducted, It'd be too much. And so I was going to go and get hypnosis, so I put myself on airplane mode. I'm here, I'm paying a lot of money. Let's talk to my inner child. Turns out she was really upset. I know, I didn't even understand these concepts. So hypnosis is really interesting because you have to be in the right headspace. So any Ritalin or any stimulants of any kind, you can't be on anything. You really have to decide to give yourself to the experience. And my dude, my hypnosis guy, his name was Raymond. He was so Chicago, being hypnotized by this, and he didn't understand the concept of vapor. Vapor's not a word. So he'd be like, you are better than the vaping. It was The Reckoning, a horror film. You will see the color red, and you will know I do not need to vape. Yeah, and actually that's kind of off-red, but still same thought. The chairs, I'm like, yeah, no, it did work. But it's not like I didn't know what was going on. And that was just the first time it was very, let's have a color, let's pair it with the idea that you are able to do this on your own volition. And then I turned off airplane mode, and my crazy boyfriend, who somehow had forgot that I had told him, I'm gonna go get hypnotized to do this thing that you hate that I do. I'm gonna try to quit it. And he was like, where are you? What's going on? Why aren't you on the map? And then I straight up almost broke up with him at McDonald's. Because you can't be quitting tobacco and dealing with crazy men. That is too much at one time. And so obviously, I went back to hypnosis and I was like, this crazy thing happened with this awful boy. Thank God he turned off on my friends because he was being dramatic, and I was like, this will make the breakup so much easier. And I did break up with him between sessions because I was like, I'd rather not get lung cancer than deal with you and your weird military shit. He had PTSD from Afghanistan. He had never been to Afghanistan. Yeah. Anyway, so by the second session, I was like in a way better headspace to do it, and what's interesting is my hypnosis guy, Raymond, he was like, make sure to be taking a lot of vitamin C. He actually had a really interesting approach. It's like, you're about to flood toxins out, so you have to flood vitamins in. And I was taking supplements, and that was really, really, really smart for the body reaction. Because withdrawal sucks, right? Yeah. So how to taper that down to as least as possible. So between the two times that I like had a crazy boyfriend in my initial hypnosis, and to when I was a single person deciding that I'm not going to vape anymore, I was already vaping less. It's crazy. It really started to work if you give yourself into it. And I remember that I'm going to take you through it, and this is the end of my set. This is my closer, is my hypnosis experience. Are you ready? So I'm in a chair. There's very little touching, but there was some touching. He's like, I am now going to touch your shoulder. I was like, is it necessary? It was fine. He was like, you are good. You are good. I'm like, okay, Raymond, all right. So you're in a chair, he puts a blanket on you, you close your eyes. I think I wear my retainer because I do that for everything. When I bike ride, I'm wearing my mouth guard. When I box, I'm wearing my mouth guard. At any stranger's house, I still wear the mouth guard. Yeah, dude. And it raves, I bring it. Okay. Is that my emotional support device? Yeah. So I'm getting hypnotized, and I remember him saying, you're in a beautiful elevator. I'm like, I don't really like elevators. That's a whole other anxiety thing I don't want to talk about. He's like, and it's going down, and it's just so gorgeous. And I was like, what is a beautiful elevator? And what's crazy is I did put all of this into ChatGPT. I'm not going to show you the images, but I made the images. It was like, there were like fake flowers and everything in the elevator and like a beautiful couch. I was like, who knows how big this elevator is? And then you go down to a basement where you are confronted with your inner child. And I was like, she'd be so pissed off right now. Yeah, because my middle name is Joey, because my grandfather's name was Joseph, and then he died of lung cancer from smoking. I was born to not do that, right? In name. Yeah, I know, my mom put a lot of guilt on me. It only worked in some areas. Not this one, but I don't have any tattoos, so you're welcome, Mom. And I don't have a nose ring, because she said then you'd always have a hole in your nose. It's a false equivalency, but okay. So, I remember talking to my inner child, and you cry. I cried a lot because you're really upset and you kind of like flooded out, and it was really wild because at no point was I actually completely out of it, right? Hypnosis isn't like, and now you're a parent. It wasn't that. It was like, repeat these words to yourself, here are some affirmations, but like really talk to who you are inside. I was crying a lot. And then between the last two sessions, I didn't smoke. And I had very little withdrawal, which is really wild. He was like, get lifesaver candies and suck on them instead. Like as a substitute replacement for a second. And I have TMJ, obviously, tight muscle jaw, so I have the mouth guard. So I was like, can't suck on things. So I don't want to add to all of my ailments. And it was an interesting few weeks because slowly but slowly I could like feel that I didn't have this anxiety when I left the house that's like, oh my God, my vape, I can't leave. That's the worst. It's the worst. So does anyone ever experience that where you're like, you leave the house and like, fuck, I gotta go back for that vape? Yes. Right? It's amazing when it goes away, and I cannot claim full responsibility. So as much as I am strong, and I think that it has very much helped how I deal with anxiety and depression, because I still dated bad idiot boys, and I never went back. So, yeah. And I did stand-up comedy, and I never went back. I would just say, if you're thinking about hypnosis, it is a really, really cool thing, and Raymond is great. I'll give you his card. Okay.